Welcome everyone back again to another video. In today's video we are going to be going over one of my favorite characters in Legion so far. An underrated character that I definitely hope we see more of in the future. Now before I get started, I just want to say that there are very mild spoilers for Legion in this one video. The only spoilers that you will see are pretty much of a single questline, nothing else. If you want to leave the video right now because you don't want any spoilers at all, then have a good one. But to those of you guys who want to stay, let's go ahead and get into it. Today's video will be about a noble highborn prince, one of the few that dared defied Queen Azshara 10,000 years ago, and for doing so, he and his people paid the ultimate price. In today's video, we will be talking about Prince Farondis. Now a little backstory about this character. 10,000 years ago during the War of the Ancients, Azshara and her highborn, now transformed into the Naga, sought power unimaginable, and so to do this, she decided to ally with the demons and summon Sargeras into the world so that he may purge Azeroth in fire like he and his legion had done to countless worlds before Azeroth. In retaliation, the Kaldrai rallied in order to defend their lands against the invading demons and the power-hungry Highborn. But there were also Highborn that saw the devastation wrought forth from the demons and decided that perhaps following their beloved Queen Azshara was not the best course of action. Among the few that dared harbor this mindset was Farondis and his people, and for that, the prince paid the ultimate price. So while questing in Azshuna, we eventually are given a quest to seek out a prince named Farondis, and on the way, we meet up with a night watcher by the name of Idri, who turns out to be under assault by the Naga. Few questions come up, such as why is she a specter yet not exactly dead, but regardless we aid her by eliminating the neighboring Naga which is attacking her forces. After the task is done, we then ask her if she can take us to Farondis, to which she responds by saying, "Yeah, I can take you, but if you get the chance, spit on him for me." To make our first impression of him even worse, as you enter into the palace to meet him, one of his own advisors says, "A stranger? Hopefully an assassin, to do away with that prince." And he says this while Farondis is literally like 4 feet in front of him. Savage as fuck. So at this point, we know that something is up. His people hate him, but we don't know why. The prince then gives us a quest to recover 55 Night Elf bones, stating that when the Naga began attacking their people, they raided the Highborn's graveyards and stole the bones of Farondis' people as well as his ancestors. He then tells you to recover these bones in order to comfort and ease the distress of his people. So when you read the quest, it's kind of strange because you expect this guy to be a huge dick, since his own people are hoping that he literally gets killed right in front of him. But when you speak to him, it is quite the opposite. It seems like despite how his people perceive him, which is no doubt in a negative light, he still cares much for them. So you recover the bones and make your way back to him and tell him that you are on a mission to recover the Tidestone of Golganeth, a pillar of creation. Farondis agrees to help you and travels with you to Narthalos, a great elven city which was destroyed during the War of the Ancients. Now this is where you first see how powerful this guy truly is. He is not one of the Queen's most trusted and personal advisors for nothing. Farondis wields incredible power. On the way to the city, we come under siege from Naga, Murlocs, and other enemies, and before we can even do anything, Farondis basically nukes them all down with meteor storms, easily killing them without even batting a sweat. He is no doubt one of the strongest characters that I have encountered in the beta so far, but I've only been playing for like 4 days and I'm like 107 on my warrior, so there might be more powerful NPCs out there. Going back to the story, we enter the city and a conversation plays out between Farondis and his right-hand captain.
Thaldris, my trusted captain.
Hold right there. We will not let you into Narthalos again. Not after what happened last time.
I beg your forgiveness, Thaldris.
You sundered the land we called home. You denied us the release of death. 10,000 years of damnation for 10,000 elves. All because of your foolish alliances and botched politics.
What can I do to make amends?
I doubt there is anything you can do now, Prince.
So after witnessing this, we pretty much realized what he has done. Somehow, he has damned his people to a fate of eternal torment. And although it is not directly mentioned that he betrayed Queen Azshara yet, every single time you click on him while handing in quests, he will say, I should have never defied Queen Azshara. Connect the dots and you'll pretty much see that Queen Azshara was the one that screwed over his people. Despite this though, when you ask him why his people treat him with contempt, he says, I damned our people. I brought about the destruction of our ancestral homeland. I killed them all. It is because of my folly that our people cannot experience the relief of death. My failures led our people to this cursed ghostly half-existence. You did this? How? Why? I was a poor leader. I was blind, and I chose the wrong path for my people. I cannot go into any more detail than that. Give me time. I am certain that all will be revealed in good time. They have not forgiven me, and I cannot blame them. Past crimes aside, I am still their prince. Even in death I will do what I can to protect my people. Hellscream, act as a champion. Find and defeat the creature that leads this Naga against the people of Narthalas. After all these years, you, a human of all things, may be the instrument of my redemption. After we hear the story, we lurk around Narthalas and find a couple of notes with written entries explaining in full detail how exactly Farondis damned his people. The first entry goes as the following. The Defiance of Farondis. Queen Azshara's pact with the Demon Lord Sargeras was mostly uncontested by her subjects. One of the few that dared to defy her was Prince Farondis. As one of the Queen's trusted advisors, Farondis was in regular contact with the Highborn of Zinajati, but his palace in Azshuna was several leagues away from the Elven capital. As such, he was able to witness Sargeras' influence on the Highborn court without falling sway to the demon's temptation. The Wrath of the Queen. Farondis' plan was bold, but simple. Destroy the Well of Eternity in Zinajati. Doing so would close the portal to Sargeras' realm and stem the tide of the evil before it even started. In order to accomplish this task, he would use the power of an artifact stored deep within Narthalas' academy, the Tidestone of Golganeth. Unfortunately, the Queen's influence in Farondis' palace was already deep-seated. Vandros, a young noble in Farondis' court, caught word of Farondis' plan to defy the Queen and reported the insurrection to Queen Azshara herself. The fate of Azshuna. Azshara wasted no time in punishing Farondis and his people. In a frightening display of arcane power, she destroyed the Tidestone of Golganeth, and in doing so, released a wave of dark energy all over Azshuna and its inhabitants. Since that day, the elves of Azshuna have been unable to experience the release of death. Their spirits, our spirits, wandered the land indefinitely, all because of our prince's unwise allegiances. So after this, we realize that it is not the prince who directly betrayed his people, but because he followed his heart in believing what was right, which meant defying Queen Azshara, it sealed his people's fate, leading them to lose all faith in their leader, even though he only had his best people's interest in mind. When we return, we see a crowd of people surrounding the prince saying,
Failure. Murderer. Fool. Butcher.
Stop. Stop the voices, I beg you.
Tormented by the constant years of hatred from his own people, it is a wonder how Farondis hasn't been driven insane yet. However, his love for his people is greater than nearly everything, that even after 10,000 years of resentment from his own kind, he would still serve as their protector and their leader even though they might not wish it so. Farondis, glad that you returned unharmed, now decides to take you closer to the Tidestone. Along the way, not only are Naga and Murlocs attacking you like before, but the drowned restless spirits of the Night Elven people also reveal themselves just to attack Farondis for damning them to such a grim fate. The Banshees open up by saying, Die, Farondis, or You traitor, you brought this upon us, as they try to murder him. The only thing the prince does in retaliation, however, is defend himself and then uttering the words,
I am truly sorry.
Upon arriving outside the Narthalas Academy, once hailed as the most prominent center for magical studies in Azeroth, he tells you that he cannot enter the academy because he is so racked with guilt. Instead, he sends you to go in there and retrieve the Tidestone. Unfortunately, things do not go as planned, and the Naga find out what you were trying to do, follow you, beat the crap out of you, take the Tidestone, and then hold you captive in a cave. Just as they are about to kill you, however, the Naga holding you captive are killed by the one, the only, Farondis, who then tells you how he rescued you. You then play through the prince's eyes as he tells you that while you were in there atoning for the prince's own sins, guilt overcame him. So he followed you into the academy, but when he reached the entrance, he saw two Naga dragging you out. Instead of abandoning you, he instead decides to follow you alone despite the hordes of murlocs and legions of Naga patrolling the path. When the time was right, he engaged the two Naga holding you prisoner and actually manages to overpower them until they are forced to flee. But when they do so, instead of pursuing them and retrieving the Tidestone for himself, he decides to rescue you by following the Naga into the slave pen. However, once he draws near the cave, something unexpected happens.
I had finally found their slave pen. At the entrance to the cave, however, I ran into an old acquaintance.
Farondis, my most loyal subject. It's been too long.
That voice...
I'm sorry, you must not recognize me. Is this better?
Queen Azshara! You lead the Naga?
Poor deluded Farondis. Don't you remember? I quashed your rebellion 10,000 years ago. Do you remember how powerless you were to stop me? And look at you now, a specter of your former self, cursed to an eternity of undeath and ineptitude. I'm giving you an opportunity to kneel before me, Princeling. Maybe something can be done about that little curse.
To release my people's curse, to redeem myself, and secure my legacy. The people of Azuna were, and always will be, too proud to kneel before your demonic allies, witch. And we will never... kneel! Before you!
My wrath is coming.
Despite everything, despite her promises and her immense power that she wielded which damned him and his people for 10,000 years, Farondis once again, being the honorable elf that he is, pretty much takes a dump on her and tells her that he will never join her since he knew that she offered his people salvation but at the cost of something much more. So what does he do? He doesn't tell her no, he calls her a witch to her image, which is pretty much her face if she was there, and then hurls a whole bunch of fireballs straight at her face. He knew what she was capable of. He knew that 10,000 years ago, when he defied her, it cost him and his people dearly, but he also knew that if he accepted the offer right then and there, it would cost them everything. So he did the only thing that he could, despite countless times when we talked to him and he says, "I should have never defied Queen Azshara." When it came to the point when it mattered most, he once again defied Queen Azshara because he now knows that what he did 10,000 years ago wasn't the wrong or the right thing to do. It is what he had to do. After he rescues you, he tells you that before the Tidestone is recovered, those who possess it must be killed. So we defeat Athissa, the female Naga who Farondis engaged earlier, and kill her with the aid of the Night Watchers and Farondis' soldiers as well as his most trusted captain. When asked why they aided him, this is what they said.
Why, Thaldris? Why did you and your men come to my aid? I thought you despised me.
We saw what you did.
Can I
Any elf with the
assist you?
courage to stand up against the Queen herself is worth following.
The Night Watchers are yours to command once more, my prince.
I'm glad to have your loyalty again. It's been a long time, Thaldris.
And that's pretty much it to this wonderful questline, guys. After this, we enter the Eye of Azshara, which is a dungeon in Legion, recover the Tidestone, bring it back to Dalaran, and Farondis gives us his last words of gratitude.
It has been ages since I have seen the Tidestone whole, but there it stands. I and my people owe you a debt of gratitude that we can never repay. Please,
Return to Azuna as soon as you can. There is much yet left to do.
One of my favorite characters in Legion, and hell, maybe in World of Warcraft so far. Noble, honorable, OP as fuck, and has a great backstory. Let's see more of him, Blizzard.